Are you thinking of playing The Last of Us Part 1 on its hardest difficulty for the first time? Then this video is for you. The Last of Us grounded difficulty can seem intimidating the first time you approach it, especially if you found the moderate difficulty challenging or don't tend to play games on hard difficulties. But unlike some games which approach difficulty simply by upping enemy HP and making your HP lower, grounded on The Last of Us actually feels like the intended experience for the game.
Well, that was easier than I thought it'd be.
It can take some getting used to, but rather than being a matter of gritting your teeth through hordes of bullet sponges, it's all about working with the game's systems. Once you get into the rhythm of it, it can be a lot of fun. So in this video, I'm going to lay out every useful tip that I can for surviving on grounded. Let's start with what's different from lower difficulties. The Last of Us scales its difficulty on 5 factors. Player vulnerability. On grounded, you will be able to take less damage and mid-encounter checkpoints will be less frequent. Enemy aggression. On grounded, the enemy will be more accurate, more aggressive in their pursuit of you and tactics such as flanking, more complex in their melee combos, with some enemies such as clickers moving far faster, and enemies custom tuned to specific encounters. Ally passivity. Allies on grounded will be varying degrees of useless, hardly if at all intervening, and killing enemies even less. Stealth. Enemies will have much greater perception on grounded, spotting you quicker and alerting allies almost instantly, and it will be harder to grab enemies from stealth. For example, unless they are entirely unaware of you, you can generally only grab them from behind. Resources. On grounded, enemies will generally only drop ammo if your supply is below a certain threshold and you kill them by shooting. Supplies in the world will be extremely scarce, making every single item count massively. Allies will, with few exceptions, never provide you with items or ammo during an encounter. On top of this, on grounded there is no HUD. The game will not tell you how much health you have left, so you need to rely on other indicators, and although you can see how many bullets you have, you won't see how many are loaded in your gun. You also cannot use listen mode on grounded or survivor difficulty. All of this can seem intimidating, but the challenge is definitely doable, so let's talk about tactics that will save your life.
Patch yourself up, alright?
Firstly, when keeping track of your health, you have 3 main indicators. Whether the glow around the control touchpad is green or red, any red effects around the edge of the screen, and health packs and pickups. If you're able to heal, even if the touchpad is green, then you are not at full health, but you're only in danger when the touchpad is in the red, and or there are red effects around the screen. Using a health pickup may restore just enough health to get you from red to green, and a health pack will obviously do the same, but may not mean full health. It'll be up to you to judge if the health you have is enough, or if you'd feel safer healing, bearing in mind that you won't have a constant supply of health kits, and the crafting materials to make them are also required for Molotovs. The pill upgrades to max health can also heal you a bit if you aren't at full health, so that may mitigate the need to heal at least twice in the game. Other than that, full health will be restored at the beginning of the Outskirts, Bill's Town, Pittsburgh, Tommy's Dam, Hunt, Lakeside Resort, Bus Depot and Firefly Lab chapters. The biggest stretch without an automatic health refill is from the start of Pittsburgh to the end of the suburbs, so this will be the most challenging in terms of health conservation.
He's not here. Fan out!
Without listen mode, keeping track of enemies means 3 things. 1. Moving the camera frequently to check all angles you can be flanked from. 2. Listening to their conversations, both because the sound will give you an indication of their distance and direction, and because they will telegraph their own movements. And 3. Paying attention to when the music ramps up or cuts back, indicating their alert status and closeness. These will all take practice to get used to, but will become in time far more useful than listen mode, which already has limited range. Allies will sometimes call out enemy movements, but this is infrequent and can sometimes even be misleading. For example, they may get excitable because an enemy has a shotgun, but it doesn't necessarily mean the enemy is all that close or even coming your way. Pay attention to it, but trust your own senses and surroundings more.
We can sneak by them, even though I know that's not your style.
Whether playing as Joel or Ellie, the most important thing to know is that in most scenarios you don't have to kill every single enemy. That doesn't mean there aren't others where it's easier or more beneficial to kill every enemy, but equally plenty of others are doable by knowing where the exit is and working out the safest, quickest way to get there. If you want specific strategies for each encounter, then I may at some point do a separate video on that. But equally, if you want to figure it out for yourself, then the encounters listed are the only ones that demand a fight. But you do have to fight, especially with humans, then it's definitely recommended to pop up quickly, make a kill or two, and retreat to stealth as fast as you can. If you stay where you are, the enemy will not only regroup on your position, but they will try and flank you. And the levels are designed to necessitate moving because there are few positions in a level where you cannot be flanked. This means moving to a new position, as the enemy will head to the last place they're aware you occupied. But be aware that those who are closest to you will essentially track you to wherever you sprint. This can be useful if you want to lead them into an ambush. You can sprint somewhere, take cover and ready yourself, then spring out when they investigate. Or if you want to give yourself a bit more room to breathe, then stop sprinting when you're out of sight, but don't stop moving. Even if this means crouching and waddling around to a different point of the room, it'll give you enough space to prepare yourself as the enemy ready themselves to flank the position where you stopped running. It's also worth mentioning The Last of Us' stamina system here. In a combat encounter, Joel and Ellie effectively have 3 states: the standard jog, a full pelt sprint, and a tired sprint. The tired sprint is faster than normal movement, but slower than full stamina sprint, and the full stamina only endures for relatively short bursts. So it's worth getting used to the timing on this, and making sure you don't keep the sprint button held when you don't have to. Even in combat situations with infected, there are moments where it's safe to stop sprinting for a few seconds, and then launch into a recharge sprint when enemies get close. This will take some feeling out, and nerves, since getting it wrong can mean getting caught, but it's definitely useful if you have to improvise in an encounter to know how it works.
Man, you hit hard.
Yeah, well, I was trying to kill you.
As for the combat itself, obviously in grounded, bullets will be limited, and so there are occasions when other tactics will come in handy to conserve ammo or get you out of a tight spot when you have none. If you've played Part 2, then you may already be familiar with the brick or bottle throw and strike combo. Essentially, where the throwable stuns the enemy, allowing for you to perform a strike kill. This still works in Part 1. Ellie can still do that, with runners, humans, and even clickers dying in one knife hit after she's thrown a brick or bottle at them. You can also perform a strike kill from stealth on any of these enemy types. This is incredibly useful for her section and Left Behind, due to the fact that melee combat is essentially impossible due to her size against the enemies. With Joel, there is some variety to it. If you attack immediately after the throwable hits, then if unarmed, he will punch the enemy to the knees and then deliver a final kick. The one exception here is a clicker, who will take the punch, but then kill you instantly when you try to follow up. If Joel has a melee weapon, a single hit will finish them off. However, if you take a little too long to reach the enemy, you will simply throw punches and you'll be in a normal fight with them. This can potentially mean death if the human you're fighting has armed allies nearby, or if there are a few other infected around the runner you've stunned. Luckily, Joel does have other options. If he has a brick specifically, then rather than throwing it, you can equip it and press melee 3 times in order to kill the enemy with it. This includes clickers, making it extremely valuable when you lack a shiv, though be aware this is not a stealthy weapon. Hitting the enemy in the same manner with a bottle will break the bottle instantly, but will knock them down to their knees, allowing you to kill them in one hit afterwards. Though it's worth noting that this will not work with clickers, who will only be normally stunned and respond to a thrown punch by instantly killing you. Another method, though not as consistent and definitely not to be attempted with clickers, is to attack the enemy with a sprinting punch rather than a standing punch. This can knock them to their knees in the same way as a bottle attack, but won't work if you don't have enough of a run-up, or if you have a long gun in your hands, in which case Joel will strike them with the butt of the long gun, and it will have the same impact as a normal punch. In instances where the first running punch isn't enough, you can keep hold of sprint and do a second, which may just do the job. Finally, if you have pistol bullets and want to use them wisely, then shooting a human, runner or stalker in the leg can knock them over for a melee kill. This may be easier than a headshot, but if you miss and they get too close, then particularly with the infected, it can lead to you getting grabbed, so be sure you can land the shot. Again, with clickers, although the game registers the shot as impacting the weak point, it doesn't knock them down unless it's a shot from a rifle or 2 shots from a shotgun, so it's a more risky tactic. A headshot will shatter their fungal plate and stun them, but although you may get a cheeky punch in during this moment, it's not going to kill them unless you have a melee weapon to finish the job.
Not a lot of ammo.
You'll make your shots count.
Where you're using guns, on grounded the revolver is a one-hit kill with the exception of armoured enemies, clickers and obviously bloaters. This makes it far more useful than it might otherwise be, especially in making quick kills without necessarily needing headshot accuracy. The rifle and the El Diablo sniper pistol are as well, and can be upgraded to be armor piercing and more powerful, at which point they will also kill armoured enemies and clickers in one hit. With armoured enemies, shooting them in the leg with these guns is an easy way to kill them in one without upgrades, though again, this doesn't work with clickers. Returning to Ellie, the bow will kill humans and runners in one hit, though it must be drawn to at least a minimal tautness for this to be the case. The rifle and the revolver will also one-hit kill enemies, and in turn on grounded there is a relatively generous return on ammo if you kill enemies. So for the most part you can use the rifle fairly liberally in the coal mine and lakeside resort section. With the revolver in Silver Lake, the game is a bit stingier with the bullets, but there are plenty of bottles and bricks, so a combination of the throw and stab tactic and one-shot hits should see you through. If you get grabbed by an enemy and manage to escape, you can immediately stab them in retribution to kill them. This doesn't work if David breaks you free of a runner, however, so in those cases regain your distance rather than trying to attack.
Do I need to remind you what is out there?
The other thing to be aware of in combat encounters is the enemies themselves. For the infected, if they're alerted, it's generally better if possible to kill the clickers first, as they mean death if they get too close. Though whilst doing so, be aware of runners and don't completely ignore them, as they'll be one to grab you and either cause a load of damage so you can't take too many hits after, or give a clicker time to bridge the gap. Use the space, be aware of what weapons you have and their strengths and weaknesses. For example, the shotgun can destroy an enemy right in front of you, but its use diminishes at a distance. And keep an eye on where throwables are to pick up, as they may well save your life. In stealth, the runners may seem more of an issue since they can see you, but you have to move extremely lightly to avoid clickers hearing you, as well as making sure you don't get in the way of their screams. As for humans, in stealth a brick or bottle stun may allow you to stealth kill an oncoming enemy, though be aware of a glitch where on occasion Joel will wave the brick but not actually throw it, which can cause problems if you don't realise he's not thrown it. When human enemies move about, they will not always be looking in the direction they're walking, which can, depending on the circumstances, be to your advantage or detriment, so try to be aware of head movements and bodies turning. When searching for you and in combat, enemy dialogue should telegraph what they are doing, and with the direction it's coming from giving you a clue as to their whereabouts. When they say they can't find you, that may mean you're safe for a moment, but if they sound close then that moment may not last long, or it may be unwise to move in that direction. When they say they're moving up or command each other to go around, be aware of where you can be flanked from as well as any possible escape points, and be ready to shoot or move, or both, quickly. In addition, it's very worth being aware what weapons enemies have. Enemies with no weapons may be easy to fight, but if they have a melee weapon and you don't, then shooting will be safer than hand to hand. More crucially, some enemy weapons will kill you in one shot, regardless of your health. This includes shotguns and rifles, and later in the game also El Diablo pistols. If a shotgun enemy is approaching your position with a gun raised, for example, then the second they spot you they will fire off a shot, faster than you can fire one off if rising from cover. In this instance, if you don't have a brick to stun them or space to move unseen, then waiting at the corner and coming out swinging as they go to turn the corner may save your life. Taking these enemies out first, ideally with a one-shot kill and when they're unaware of you, is crucial to survival on grounded. Beyond the big systems and mechanics I've already mentioned, the last big thing is that the more you play on grounded, the better a feel you'll get for all of what I've talked about, and more. Your first playthrough on this difficulty may result in 300 deaths, but over time you'll be able to minimise that to single figures. Play it enough and your main hurdle will be RNG. The fact that NPC actions and timing will be off that 1 in every 100, or in some cases 1 in every 1,000 runs through the same area. It seems daunting at first, but as with everything it gets better with practice. And if you want to start off by following a more specific walkthrough, then let me know in the comments, and I may make a video on that in the future. If you enjoyed this video, then please give it a like and consider subscribing to keep up to date with all my content. Like the video that just popped up, which YouTube thinks you should watch next. This is a Patreon and member supported channel, so if you want to become a member and unlock custom badges and emojis, early access to my videos, and your name in the credits, then click the join button below. Thanks very much for watching, and see you next time.